order at 7:03. This is our June 22nd work session. Looks like we have almost all our council members present. I know Councilmember Aaron Foe is dealing with post-surgery and is in recovery. He said he would try to dial in if he could. But if not, we will proceed forward. We do have a quorum. Okay. Before we get started, is there approval to the agenda? Any amendments to the agenda or stated conflicts of interest?
Approve.
So since we have no conflicts of interest, then we will proceed with the agenda is shared in the room for folks who can see. And we have two presentations. The first one is a review of the community concerns regarding immigration. We had an incident that happened about a week or so ago. So we'll talk about that. We also have a road improvement project, public comments as always, and then 4 discussion items, and then the reports as well as we get to that. All right. So I know that there's been a lot of attention that sort of happened over the last weekend or so during the holiday about information. And so we'll get the full kind of play-by-play in terms of what happened. And then we'll open it up for questions from the council as well. And then obviously there's public comment as well. So if folks from the public want to chime in, there'll be an opportunity to do so as well. We do have our town attorney, Ms. Victoria Shearer, also online as well, mainly to help us keep in line of any of our discussions, since the topic could potentially veer into topics that are just restricted in terms of what can be done in sort of a public forum, public meeting. So with that, is staff prepared to sort of give like an overview, sort of like what happened in the incident and like a play-by-play or at least a timeline to get everyone grounded in terms of what happened, and then we can open it up for questions from council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council and the community. Tonight, my deputy or the deputy town manager will walk us through a timeline of the events of June 11th, so 11 days ago. And so with that, Jessica.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Just want to go through the timeline on June the 11th. So this is Thursday, June the 11th, starting at approximately 7:26 a.m. So we're going to go step by step through the events of that morning. And then if there's any questions, we can get to that after we go through just kind of a timeline. So just to set the stage, this is June the 11th, Thursday. So it is one of the last 2 weeks in the school year for Riverdale Elementary. It's a week where we had several events occurring. We had an event that night and one that weekend. And about 7:26 in the morning on Thursday, June the 11th, the town manager and I received a text from Mayor Inyang with a picture of some vehicles on the vacant lot located at 5002 Queensberry Road, stating that ICE-looking vehicles can't confirm yet next to Town Hall. This is a text I received from a resident this morning. So at 7:28 a.m., I forwarded the picture to Chief Turner saying, "Hello, can you confirm who this is?" This picture came from a resident. At 7:34 in the morning, we received a text from a member of the council with the same picture saying these vehicle plates pop up in the community ICE tracker. Can we get some clarity on why they appear to be using a town-owned non-public lot as soon as possible? Then at 7:38 in the morning, Chief Turner called the officer on duty to ask him to respond to the lot next to the police department, as there were people and vehicles that had congregated, and asked the officer to determine who they were. Some of the vehicles in the picture were identified as Riverdale Park Police Department vehicles, personal vehicles, and the lot had been used for the teachers as well. So that's why I mentioned in the morning or at the beginning of the conversation is that there was a lot of activity happening, and we had been using that lot to allow the teachers to park their vendors, things like that. Then at 7:43 a.m., I received a call. I called the town manager to make sure he had seen the text messages, and he was leaving for medical appointments that morning. So that was important just to make sure we had everybody involved. We're going to show the body worn camera footage, but that footage starts at 7:43 in the morning. So at 7:45, John, the town manager, reached out to Chief Turner asking just for an update, what has gone on, that kind of thing. The body worn camera footage ends at 7:47 a.m. And then at 7:47 a.m., right around that same time, the officer on duty contacts the chief to confirm that they were indeed ICE officers on that lot. And the chief asks him to return to the lot to tell the officers that they were not permitted and they needed to leave. At 7:50 in the morning, the officer on duty reported to the chief that the officers were leaving. And about that same time, the chief was arriving on site. So he also saw the vehicles leaving at that time. Chief Turner then went to speak with the security on site at Riverdale Elementary School. And just to give it a little bit of a timeline context, the Riverdale Park Police Department typically has about 2 or 3 officers on site at the elementary school, and that occurs right around 8:20 to assist the crossing guards. So that is the timeline for to lead us up to the video to be shown. Ryan, can you please share the video?
Absolutely, pulling that up now. Make sure all the settings are appropriate so everybody can hear everything right away. I know that there isn't much volume until the first minute anyway when the car is exited, so I'll start the video now.
What's the volume? Yeah, I think the audio is not playing.
Mr. Shelton, the audio is not playing. Please back the video up and share the audio.
I'm sorry, Tom Andrew, did you say that the audio is not playing?
That's correct. Please
Okay.
back the video up and play the audio.
Yes.
Thank you.
Try again. I thought that would work the first time. Let me double check something. Settings. try to unshare and then share it again. And I'm hoping that this will, there we go. There's a share sound button here. That's where I couldn't find it. Okay, optimize for videos. And then should be the same video again. I'll just start playing once more.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
What's going on?
Hey, good. How are y'all doing? You guys, how's it going? Hey, we just gotta come over and talk to you guys for our department policy and all that.
Yeah, what's up?
You guys just out here for
We're just doing up reports.
doing reports?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Oh,
okay.
You're better head out.
Just like
yeah.
I said, we just met a parking spot to get everything done, report-wise and stuff. So
Yeah, I got you. Just gotta come talk over to you guys and do all that kind of stuff. So
That's cool.
yeah.
We're getting out of here now anyway. Yeah. Got some noise out here. Running around.
Well, you know, it's this area's cool. Well, I'm sure you guys know better than most, but yeah, we
I know
gotta
nothing.
come out here and do this whenever they see the unmarked cars and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. We like, so we was doing finish up paperwork.
No, I got you. I got you. You guys done for the day, or how? What kind
Yeah,
of?
we're done. Yeah, we're done. For
What kind of hours you guys work?
We don't have an hour.
Really?
We do, but we don't.
It's based on the target we are targeting, what time they leave and all that stuff, and the individual done after. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so there's no specific time
Yeah.
for when we get
So how long have you guys been out in the field for, like, one specific thing before?
for one specific time. You said?
Yeah.
Depends.
Yeah. We done for the day.
That's not bad. We got until 4:30 this afternoon.
Yeah, we work pretty long hours.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
The major issue for us is like the processing because it takes time. We have to process the fingerprint and do all the paperwork.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you guys take anyone back in custody to?
So it depends. Baltimore.
Just to like an immigration, like one of the field offices, or
Federal building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, convention center.
okay.
We're gonna have that. So we're doing all the forms are set in kind of early. So if you don't have a body, I would say just don't go in the office, right? Because you know what? Did you do a form?
All right. Well, I'll catch up with you guys. You guys take it easy, okay?
Yeah, we're not causing no noise in the back.
No, y'all good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for playing the video. Miss Victoria here, are you still online?
Yes, Mayor, I'm here.
Before we get into discussion, just can you give us just a quick overview in terms of in an open meeting? Are there any guardrails that we should stay away from or be mindful of, just so that it helps guide our discussion amongst council?
Yes, of course. So here in this open public meeting, no one can discuss issues related to personnel, including personnel discipline, behavior, actions, and things like that. So those things are to be discussed in a closed session and cannot be publicly discussed. And if they are, it can open you up to obvious litigation or liability. And also, I would just like to point out that I am not here tonight to give any lengthy legal opinions. That is also something that would occur in a closed session and after I've had the opportunity to review, research, and analyze the various issues that have arisen from the incident. Nevertheless, I'm here to provide any answers to procedural questions or anything else that would come up that I can help you address.
Thank you. Appreciate the background. So I know there's a lot of questions, right? And I have a keen interest in making sure that everyone on council is heard. I hope that we have a really respectful and open, honest conversation where people can ask tough questions, and will still remain our our civil discourse. The other thing that I want to make sure in terms of folks getting opportunity. So one, I appreciate staff getting me a stopwatch, so it can count up to 3 minutes. I don't know how to set a timer to count down, but I'll just use that to sort of keep track in case folks are talking for a while. We can at least try to respect our council rules where it's a 3 minute discussion. And then obviously other people from the council have the opportunity to discuss and talk. If we want to circle back, we can, as long as everyone from the council has an opportunity to speak. And so I think in the interest of time, obviously, if you have multiple questions that you're trying to get out, I would encourage folks to sort of lay those questions out rather than trying to manage both the 3 minutes and then obviously people responding in real time. I think it's more productive of just like, we're all taking notes. I'll keep notes as well in case there's like 4 or 5 questions that are asked. I'm sure staff is keeping track as well, and we'll try to give an opportunity to respond. Does that make sense for folks in the room? I don't see any hands raised.
Mr. Mayor,
Council member.
Just to clarify, you were articulating there that we would, if we exhaust our 3 minutes, go to the next person, and then there would come another round of questions afterwards?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. Okay. With that, any questions from council? Or I'm sorry, before I do that, any other statements from staff before we ask questions at all?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions from council?
No, just thank you for having me. I haven't personally met everyone, but I'm certainly glad to be here tonight.
Yes, sorry about that. I'm just jumping right in. Thank you. I appreciate the thought and the perspective and the parameters from a legal perspective, just to remind us all. It's good. Heads up. Councilmember Worsnop, I see your hands raised.
Thank you. I have some questions about the interaction specifically, but before I ask them, I just want to ask a clarification question about what Ms. Shearer just said, and thank you for being here. You said that behavior couldn't be discussed. Is that only the case if a particular individual is named, or is it are you saying we cannot discuss what happened in the video, for example?
So that's a great question. And so overall, you can't discuss anything that would involve the personnel, employees of the city. And so you can keep it on a very broad perspective where you can say, well, this is what I saw happen, and I'd like to see something different happen, but you cannot talk about individual performance, discipline, personal training of an individual, nothing that pertains to an individual. Does that help? And certainly no names.
Okay.
Or anything
okay.
that would identify the person without naming
yeah.
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. All right. Thank you. That's useful. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about this. First, I just want to state that, I've shared questions with staff prior to the meeting, and so I know that they've received these. I'm going to restate them here. Hopefully we can discuss them in person and virtually now. So first, I'm troubled by this episode for various reasons, and I'm looking forward to hearing other perspectives and responses to several items. Most notably, as everyone here knows, we've discussed episodes like this happening in multiple occasions with mayor and council. They've been mostly hypothetical until now, not to say that ICE activity hasn't been going on in town, but in terms of a particular episode like this where RPD interacted with suspected ICE, we haven't had to address that yet, but now we are. And from my perspective, from what I've seen, what I saw, it did not, inspire a lot of confidence from my perspective that the town's policies and vision and commitment statements were being met. So for me, I am, curious about a number of things. And the first question is that wanting to know, what are the procedures for how staff, including RPD, should interact with suspected federal law enforcement. And this is related in particular to immigration enforcement. I know that there are other interactions that town staff may have with federal law enforcement. Specifically tonight, I'm focusing on the immigration issue. What is the guiding strategy? Are there clear written procedures and have all been trained on them? In particular, also, what would have happened if the suspected ICE officers hadn't left the lot soon after? Do our officers know what their options are for next steps in that type of situation or in other situations that might require more direct intervention, like where someone is being injured or there's a broader public safety issue? I know we've brought up these situations before, and now having seen this episode, I would like to see kind of more information about what the procedures actually are, both in writing and in practice. And I'm asking this not only because we have town policy on record stating that we have a non-collaboration policy, but also because clear rules and procedures help to keep our own officers safe in these situations that can be conflictual and can risk escalation. So I just want to make that clear. It's in everyone's interest. Further, I'd be
Wait,
curious to
Councilmember,
yes.
That's 3 minutes.
Okay.
Good job. We'll come back to you for
Yeah.
sure. I caught a couple different. One is like, what are the procedures on how town staff interact with ICE? What's the guidance or strategy? Is there written policy or sort of known practice? And then if ICE do not comply, what do officers know? Like what options they have in that event? All meaty conversations and topics. Can we respond to some of those questions, and then we'll circle back to you, council member, after everyone else has had an opportunity.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. So I think we need to be clear here that the officer was not responding to a report of immigration enforcement. He was responding because I asked the officer to go and see who was parked on a town lot, which he did. And he identified and he reported back to myself. And Jessica discussed the timeline on what happened from there before he was able to contact the individuals that had left the lot. So we do have a clear policy, but every situation is different. And the first thing it says in our policy is that we're to remain calm and professional and non-confrontational and de-escalate a situation. We have a GO, a general order policy on immigration and non-cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. Along with that, we have the AG's opinion that we forward to each officer, and they are trained in it. I'm not sure. Next question.
So the questions were, and council member, feel free to clarify if I missed anything. Written policy and practice, you mentioned the AG's opinion, and then you mentioned the town ordinance around ICE involvement or non-cooperation.
We have a general order that in our policy manual.
Okay.
And then the Attorney General's office puts out an opinion for law enforcement guide, which we share with each officer. Actually, the town itself developed some policy for town buildings and how town staff should interact should ICE come into a town building or on town property. Attempting to conduct enforcement.
Okay.
I think there was
the
other question was about if they did not comply.
Correct.
So we would not have the authority to remove them physically. We would document that as much as possible with an incident report. If we could obtain names of the individuals, we would. We can consult with the state's attorney at a later date to see if there was a potential for prosecution, but I don't believe there is.
Okay, Councilmember, was any questions that you asked in that I missed?
I mean, my clarifications speak to my next questions that I didn't get to. So if you'd like me to wait on them, I will. I'm sure others will also bring them up.
Okay, please write them down so you don't lose them. Councilmember
Yeah.
Ramos, you have your hand up.
Good evening. So I did want to ask, is this, this is only one video showing an interaction with ICE. Are there any other videos that show the same kind of welcoming behavior from our police department? Are there any other interactions where we're standing firm and letting them know that we're not welcoming them? Also, is this how we're planning to move forward when ICE is present? Basically, I feel like we're allowing them to intimidate residents by positioning themselves near a local school where there's a high number of students that come from immigrant families. So that's also placing fear, whether they were just doing a report or wrapping up. It's intimidation to me.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other incidents of ICE interaction? Was there another video or other instances that we have in terms of where town staff has sort of interacted with ICE?
There is no other video from this incident, and we've had no other interaction on body cam footage with ICE at any other time.
Okay. Councilman, did I miss any other questions that you had?
Mr. Mayor?
1 second, Councilmember, come on.
No, but what I did want to know is what's the next step after this? But I can wait for that.
Okay. Councilmember Kalan.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a question. These people that the eyes that they appear on our property, let me ask the chief of police, did they misbehave or they comply with the rules? Are they working on their own or they are working under the federal government? This is the question I want to know.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I had a tough time understanding the question.
Just basically, were they complying? Were they working on their own, or were they working for the federal government? Or which may be a tough thing to answer, but
Yeah, I believe they were working on their own. There was no other collaboration with any other law enforcement agency that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And did he ask, did they leave on their own?
Councilmember, is that what you're asking? Did they leave on their own? You said did they comply? What did you mean by that? Could you clarify?
I said, if they are working on their own or they are working under the federal government, or when they appear in our property, did they comply with the chief of the police and the police in Riverdale or not? Or they put on some argument?
So I think I can answer this. They elected to leave on their own before we asked them to leave. So, which is generally how we would handle a situation if it wasn't involving ICE.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Smith, your hand's raised.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Why was this incident not included on the most recent status and information report?
Just answer your questions.
Status and information report to me is a snapshot.
Chief Turner, actually, in order to keep this civil, ask all your questions like everyone else has, and then feel free to.
Not everyone else has. We just had a dialogue with Councilman McClone here. I can read multiple questions at once, but I do want to make sure that I'm going to get a response to each individual question on the record.
We're all writing them down. So yes.
So that was my first question. Why was the incident not included on the most recent status and information report? Which officers responded to this incident and were on scene? When will staff make public communications records, including dispatch logs, body cam recordings of all officers present on scene, phone text records, and any other records that may exist in any medium demonstrating the articulated timeline? We see in the video that other officers were on scene prior to the video that we watched. Where's their body cam footage? If that body cam was not activated, why not? At what point did staff ask for identification, confirming the law enforcement status from the individuals illegally occupying town property. And I want to highlight that there is posted no trespassing sign on that property. At what point did staff request to see a signed judicial warrant for the detention of the community member the individuals had in custody while illegally occupying town property? At what time did staff order the individuals to vacate the town property they were illegally occupying? What did the officer in the release video mean when he said to the individuals unlawfully occupying town property, we just have to come over and talk to y'all for our department policy and all that, and just got to come talk over to you guys and all that kind of stuff, and we've got to come out here and do this when they see unmarked cars and all that kind of stuff. What did the individual say to the officer in the released video before he responded, nah, you're all good? Why did staff depart the illegally occupied property prior to the illegal occupiers departing? What records exist to confirm the departure time of the individuals illegally occupying town property? What did the town manager mean when he informed myself and the mayor via town manager the ICE officers left as soon as requested to do so? What did staff who were on scene during the unlawful occupation of town property convey to the town manager regarding the incident? When will records of that communications be made public? Were all staff, particularly police staff, informed of the illegal occupation of town property? And when did that communication occur? What was conveyed by TRP staff to RES staff regarding the incident, and when was that communicated? What was conveyed to by TRP staff to any community groups, rapid response networks, or community groups or rapid response networks regarding this incident, and when was that communicated? That's what I have for now, Mr. Mayor. I have some other follow-ups depending on the answers to those.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. I may need you to state some of these again since you were at rapid fire, which I appreciate you laying them all out. So you asked, I think questions I have is sort of who was seen.
My first question was, why was the incident not included on the most recent status and information report?
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes, town manager.
I can answer that. Because we didn't have the full accounting and the timeline and all that. And now we do. And that'll be published in the next one.
Is it standard practice to wait until you have all of the timeline for something to include it in the status information report? I'm seeing lots of items on that status information report dated June 18th that do not have full timelines or the level of detail we're talking about here.
It is standard procedure to make sure that I share accurate information with the community. That is standard procedure. And I will say that, and the deputy town manager already shared this, I was off on that Thursday when this happened. And I was off on that Friday too. And then I was off last Thursday and Friday. My responsibility is to ensure I report accurate information, and that's what I do every 2 weeks in that report. And the next report will include this.
A question you had was sort of who was seen on the officer responding. Is that an area where we cannot answer?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify on that. There's no statute or rule saying we can't mention names. That's an advisory opinion from the attorney. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. It's in the state Maryland code, and there's personnel provisions there that protect employees. There's also case law, and there is also a provision in the Public Information Act that has an exception to open meetings for discussion of personnel matters just for those exact reasons. You would indeed be violating a person's right to talk about it publicly.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to haggle over that. I think we talk about individuals' actions on the job every single meeting here, but we can wait for a closed session, but I just want to put on the record that I disagree with that.
Okay, you, I think there were a couple questions. One was just sort of around the how the timeline was put together.
The next question is, when will staff make public all the communications records demonstrating this timeline?
So we have not received a MPIA request for public records for this. And so we're treating this as we treat all of our interactions and all of our work. And so if we receive a request for specific documents, then we would process that MPIA request, Maryland Public.
I've
Information
requested
Act.
that right now. When can we see those documents?
If I understand correctly, Ms. Barnes, can we accept a verbal request, or do we need something in writing?
Just be helpful to have it in writing so that we know.
I'm happy to have it in writing, but I just want to point out that it was previously discussed as egregious that the town was asked to submit MPIA requests for records from the state.
Well, I just want to know what records are being requested so we can make sure.
Dispatch logs, body cam recordings of all officers present on the scene, phone and text records, and any other records that may exist in any medium demonstrating the articulated timeline.
Okay. I can respond to some of that. There are needs dispatch records because this call was never called in to the police department. There were a series of text messages as the deputy town manager shared. We never received a call.
So we'll get records of those text messages?
Sure, I think you're on them.
Thank you. Wasn't any between staff that the council was not on?
I noted them.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we are clear on the scope. That's it.
Yeah, so I think we're putting it, Councilmember agreed to put it in writing to sort of help clarify the scope. There were questions around, there were other officers, there was another officer present, their body cameras off. What's the reason behind that? And then there were a couple things about what the officer did. I think to keep the question, I think let's first ask, like, there's another officer there. There's no body cam footage for that person. Correct?
Yeah, I can respond to that. So there was another officer present. That officer was parked at the school and walked over when she saw Officer LeBay. She was had her car parked on Queensberry Road for the school assignment. She didn't interact. I was actually surprised that Officer LeBay turned his camera on since it wasn't a call for service.
So normally that would not be the practice here to turn on the cameras, because we've previously been told in this forum that when our police interact with ICE, cameras will be on. That's what we were assured.
When it's a call for service, when we discussed this before, we talked about a call when we're not sure what was happening. I think it was described as armed abduction or some type of enforcement. We're not sure who it is. I previously stated I sent the officer over to find out. This was a parking complaint. We did not know who was on the lot. I received a picture and said, "Can you find out who this is?" That's what the officer did.
Can you clarify what's the policy in terms of, so you're making this distinction between call for service and not, even if it was a call for service and it was a call for service for ICE activity, what does the policy say in terms of like asking for identification or asking for a warrant, asking for a person to leave, some of those items?
So as far as what it says in the policy, if you're not clearly identifiable who it is, you're not clearly identified markings that we're not sure, then we ask for identification. As far as a judicial warrant, we're not aware that there was any detainee on the scene. We didn't observe that, and we have no authority to demand it. They don't have to show us their arrest paperwork, right? So I mean, we could ask to see it, but doesn't mean that they would offer it.
No, I understand that. I think there's an understanding that they, when we talk about the enforcement element of it, that they're, they basically, they choose not to do it, right? There's little that we can do, but we could still, is the policy still to ask for whether it's identification or if they have a warrant or for some of these other information, even if they don't necessarily want to comply?
So the policy is to ask for identification if, in the layman's terms, you're not sure who you're talking to, right? To verify that it's actual ICE officers.
And that verification happened?
I think it was pretty clear to the officers that, and I found out later.
So we're sure they weren't Custom and Border Patrol or U.S. Marshals or some other agency.
I was sure that I read ICE on their vest carrier. So we found out later, or I found out later, because I wasn't privy to the text messages that came in. I was sent a picture and said, "Can you verify who this is?" That apparently the text messages that came through identified them as ICE and ICE vehicles that I wasn't aware of prior to. I didn't receive this information, so it was pretty clear to the people that sent the text messages that they were ICE.
Yeah, and then also thinking about the policy, is it part of the policy to ask these individuals, once you've identified them, to actually leave the premises in this instance if they're on public or private property or town property that's not public?
Correct. Okay. It would be, like I said it before, I asked the officer to go back over to ask them to leave, even though they said they were leaving. And when he went back over, they were driving off.
Okay. And I think another question was around, would staff stay until they left? Obviously this did not happen in this instance. The officer left. By the time they came back, they were already gone. But in terms of what the policy is, what guidance are you giving to police in terms of how they should they stick around in terms of before a person leaves?
Sure. So just to be clear, when I say the officer left, he returned out here to the school, so he could still see them. So to return back was just to drive back over from off of Queensbury Road. Mm-hmm. So he never left where he could not see them. They were always in his sight. And I arrived on scene as they were driving off of the lot, and I saw both officers standing there on Queensbury Road, and that's when I talked to the school security.
Another question that was raised was around communication, and so incidents like this, are they shared with other members of town staff or other members who are on duty or off duty in terms of, hey, we had an incident around sort of immigration enforcement or their presence in town?
If that would have been some type of different type of incident other than like a parking complaint and then they complied and left, sure. The officers working the following shift were well aware of what happened.
Okay, because I know we've heard from like the next day of live officers not being aware when asked what happened yesterday. But
that's incorrect, sir. That's not true.
Councilmember, other questions that you asked that I tried to knock a couple of them out?
Yeah, I'm still not clear on when the people that were illegally occupying our town property were asked to leave that property.
I'm pretty sure I answered this, but I'll try again. So when the officer was directed to go back over there to ask them to leave, they were already driving off the lot, vacating it.
So am I hearing correctly that they were not asked to leave?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other comments or questions from council? Like I mentioned, we can circle back if people still have additional comments.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Kalun.
We are just wasting our time asking questions about these ICE people. These people are working for the federal government. A police officer, they are police officer. They meet another police officer. That's why I asked if they misbehave or what. They don't have to report to nobody. They report to the federal government. So let's forget about this argument, whether they send an appointment letter or the text, this and that. No. If I can recall, when the chief went and interviewed them, The guy said they are writing reports. I listened that. They said they are writing reports. In fact, they make a joke, they laugh to each other. So what are we laboring ourselves for now? Let's forget about this. Let's continue our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And for the record, the police chief did not respond to the call. Another officer did. But I appreciate your comments. Councilmember Worsnop, your hand is raised.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on two questions. One is, so I'm hearing that the fact that they weren't asked to leave or provide identification is currently consistent with policy. And so I guess just stepping back, I would be curious to hear just how the interaction that was captured in the footage, or hear it explained in the context of our town non-collaboration policy and our vision and commitment statements. Like, I completely acknowledge that we don't need to take a confrontational or escalatory approach in every case. Like, that's not what's desired. And I appreciate what the chief said, that like not being confrontational is often, the best path forward. But I don't think that it's mutually exclusive to clearly state our town policy while also not being confrontational and escalatory. And I didn't see that happen in this case. So I would just like to hear kind of this interaction as we saw on the footage, just be explained in that context. And as a follow-up, am I right in my takeaway that it is currently consistent with whatever policy is being referred to that I haven't seen, but in terms of the interaction between RPD and suspected ICE, that in this case, not asking for identification and not asking them to leave was consistent with that policy? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Good.
So again, I believe they would have been asked to leave had they not complied and not said they were ready to leave when we spoke with them. So that the policy would have been, when I instructed the officer to go back, would have been to ask them to leave. As far as it is in policy, as far as asking them for identification, because we clearly knew, the people that reported it clearly knew who they were. The asking for ID comes into play when we're not sure who we're dealing with.
And
So-
on my other question, in terms of explaining this interaction and the way it was done, that town policy wasn't stated, that they weren't told they weren't allowed to be there, and that, overall the interaction was, friendly. And again, I know everyone has their own style and way of getting what they want in terms of an outcome, but part of our policies as a town was to not make it easy for suspect or for ICE and others involved in this enforcement to operate in our town. And that interaction for me, in terms of what I saw, which was not the whole interaction, doesn't look like it was hard for them to be there. So yeah, I'll stop there.
It's not part of our policy for us not to make it easy for them. That's not a written directive that we have. If you're not making it easy, you're making it difficult, in my opinion. So if we were to handle this and it wasn't ICE, it would have been handled the same way, right? We engage people in conversation, we gain compliance. If they're willing to comply, we don't make it confrontational. That's standard practice for de-escalation.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree with you. Everybody has their own style, right? But policing has changed, and we had these conversations when I first started. We ask, we tell, we make. That's not acceptable anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The community doesn't expect that. We should remain professional and polite and gain compliance if we can.
So to clarify, you've mentioned a couple of times that the officer was responding for a parking question violation or something like that, potentially, and not necessarily an ICE. So if the call was actually, this is, it's an ICE presence that's on town property. You're saying that there would be different things that you would have expected any officer to respond in that situation?
Sure. If we had gotten a call that there was actual ICE enforcement being conducted on our property, I believe we would have asked them to leave. Now, I don't know whether we could have gained compliance or not, but we would have made the request and explained to them why. Now, it's not public property, but again, we don't have the authority to intervene in federal immigration enforcement. It would be a crime.
Councilmember, do you have did I answer your question, or did you?
It does answer my question. I think that, just to one comment and then one follow-up. I agree, with what obviously the chief said, that the intervention question is kind of a separate question to me. I am really concerned about the fact that I didn't hear our town policy being stated in this case, and that it's possible to engage someone in conversation in my view, having not done it. So, take that for what you will, but it seems like it would have been possible to clearly state our policy in this case while still remaining non-confrontational. And, they weren't told that, just so you can't park here, right? In the future, even, don't come back here. This is our town lot. It's not open to you or others without permission, right? That can be said. And I'm just wondering and hoping that could be done in the future in this case. And I think it's not just about saying it to those officers, but it's also about making sure that our community knows that all of our staff are going to at least state the town policy, right? We can't force them to comply, of course, but we can at least show that we are clearly saying that this is our policy of non-collaboration and you cannot be here. So I guess I'll leave it there, but I'd be curious for whether there are thoughts about that being inconsistent with a non-confrontational approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mr. Bill?
Real quick.
Please, I just want to bring small information to the council and the town manager and staff.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, police don't have border. They don't have boundary. These guys are police officers. That's number one. The law, a lot of people, they are talking about law, but they don't know how law is going about. A law is a series of rules of action laid down by some authorities which men are bound to obey. These police don't have no boundary. The whole world. Military have boundary, but police don't have boundary. Police can go directly to Donald Trump and speak to him. But a military officer cannot go to Donald Trump and speak to him. So let's forget about this argument. Police have no border, no boundary. You can't tell a police officer, don't come here. No, you don't have that authority. So this is my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember, for stating your opinion. Again, just want to remind folks, even in the chat and on council, that any questions or comments, please refer to the chair and not address the individuals. We may not agree with everything that has been stated by a council member, but we may not agree with everything that is stated. But that's their right to say it. And even though it's not, even if it's not phrased the way that you would want to. So again, in terms of invoking personalities, let's not directly attack or address each other. You can refer to the chair. That's part of Robert's rules in order to try to keep decorum. Councilmember Smith, your hand's been raised. I'm assuming that's your follow-up.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember.
First, I'm a little bit confused because I do recall in this chamber, we were repeatedly assured that areas that belong to the town and were not public access properties, that the no trespassing signs would be sufficient. So in terms of how we're parsing what our authority and whatnot, I'm not an attorney. I don't know what the law is on that. I know that I was assured that what we had was sufficient, and it seems it was not so sufficient so much as to even enforce the no trespassing signs and ask those the individuals to leave. So I'm not sure how to reconcile that. We keep hearing this policy referenced with the overall department policy from a handbook of some sort, or the specific on dealing with immigration issues. When were the responding staff at this incident last trained on that policy?
Well, the general order is updated every time a law change, so they've been sent policy updates over the last couple of months a few times because things have changed.
I'm sorry, can you clarify what you mean like they've been sent?
The officers are automatically sent legal updates to our policy manual.
And that's like an email?
It's a notification. Yes.
Through what medium?
It's a notification that's sent through an email.
Through an email. Okay, so they receive an email. It's not an actual training session.
So they have to acknowledge that they read it and understand it.
Right, but there isn't a training session. They receive an email. They acknowledge they read it. That's how we do that. I mean, he hasn't, but
No, he's answered the question. Ask your next question.
he hasn't answered the question. To be clear, do staff believe the actions depicted in this body cam footage reflect department policy, our town's vision and commitment statements, and the intent and direction of the mayor and council?
Can you repeat the question?
Do staff believe the actions depicted in the body cam footage reflect department policy, our town's vision and commitment statements, and the intent and direction of the mayor and council?
Victoria?
That's a yes or no question.
I don't believe it is, sir. I'm asking the legal counsel.
Yes, I'm here.
Victoria, the question is whether the individual in the video, whether that individual performed to policy, whether that individual performed to previous council.
So I'm sorry, that's not my question.
Well, then can you restate it,
Do
please?
staff believe, and per the rules we adopted in this session, in this body, if I'm not directing something at the chair, it's directed to the town manager, sir. You can answer that, or of course, it's your prerogative to offer it to someone else if you want, but I have to direct my questions to you per our rules. I'm asking if staff believe that the actions depicted in the body cam footage reflect department policy, vision and commitment statements, and the intent and direction of the council.
So to the extent that that question is asking the town manager about staff and did they comply with the council's intent or direction, I have to object to that as being too close to being a personnel matter.
Okay,
So
we'll keep
asked
going
as part
because
of your
we're not
question.
getting anywhere here, and I don't think anyone is addressing the actual question. How does staff feel residents impacted by the abduction of members of their communities will respond to this footage? And does staff believe those residents' competence will increase or decrease based on the what's the behavior depicted in the video?
So you're asking me to provide my thoughts on how the community may view this.
Yes, sir.
I think that depends on whether or not they have the full understanding of what transpired. I would say this though, sir, and I'll address the chair. We have a very diverse staff team, and For one, I'm proud of our staff team.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. We're departing from the order of the day in the agenda. I asked a question. If we're not discussing that question, I can move on to the next one.
And your question was,
Does staff believe residents' confidence will increase or decrease based on the behavior in the body cam footage?
he's answering the question. Are you answering that question, sir?
I'm trying to, and,
Okay.
and I'll get there.
It's a yes or no question.
Well, it's
Or it's increase or decrease. You could go that way too.
council member. He can answer the question as he chooses to answer the question. Okay. Do you choose to answer the question or you don't want to answer the question?
I'll attempt again, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I would say that our staff have a very good relationship with the community. And I think our community, especially with the police department, the relationship that we've developed, there's a lot of capital that's been built up, and a lot of relationships that have been built up between members of our community and our staff team. We have good officers. We have moral officers that live up to their oaths of office. So do I think that this video, unexplained, is going to do damage to the community? Maybe for some, maybe not for others. Do I think that we need to continue to send a positive message to the immigrant community? Yes. That's what the staff team has been talking about with the council since October. Does that at least in part answer your question, sir?
No, sir, but I have others. Does staff feel mayor and council have been clear, consistent, and explicit about the expectations of the town for how staff should respond in these encounters? And if not, what can we clarify here and now?
Mr. Chair, I think this is such a broad question that we would need to discuss perhaps at various work sessions and have individual items on there. Because, for example, I was asked earlier about installing signage. I was asked in an email about installing signage prohibiting federal law enforcement officers from being on town property. While there was discussion about that, the council gave no direction. There wasn't a position taken on that. And so I just cite that as one example. And if the council wants to take positions on these various things, then I would work with you to have them on the agenda. And I look forward to those discussions and to the council taking positions.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure how we could have been more clear over the last year and a half about what is expected. I'm frankly at a loss. I just have one more question. What was meant when it was communicated to the mayor and myself, quote, the ICE officers left as soon as requested to do so?
I was sharing what I understood was the chain of events. And I point back to the text messages, the phone calls, that because I had said that I'd reached Chief Turner. And I believe if you look at the timeline, my sending that text was in between the chief asking the officer to return and communicating back to you. And I would say that when you have communications where people are communicating by various means and trying to get information out in real time, sometimes it's not 100% accurate.
At what point in the last 11 days did you consider clarifying that statement?
So I've worked with my staff so we could present tonight to clarify this. I received a text message from you instructing me to update the council. After,
to be clear, I requested, I'm not instructed. I've requested and explained what my expectations were.
Council, let him speak. Okay.
I think I'm saying the same thing. And so I know I've talked with the mayor about this several times, and I made a decision that it would be best to have a meeting. And we should not be conducting, in my opinion, all these communications by text and emails. And sometimes some of the council members are left off the emails, other times they're not. And I thought it best to have a conversation with the council as opposed to an individual or individuals.
So that's a no.
He answered the question. Let's move on because we have other folks. Councilman Lingua, I know you haven't spoken yet. I appreciate your patience. Do you have anything to add?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to thank everybody who's here tonight attending and those who are zooming in on this discussion. A lot of questions that I had about this as I'm here trying to find out, understand exactly what is the timeline, what happened when and with whom. I'm getting somewhat of a clearer picture now. One question I come out of here, Mr. Mayor, and this is really something I'd like to, if we could see if we can get a comment from the attorney, Ms. Shearer, is what procedure is available to the town to issue a formal complaint on the use of town property, be it to this agency or to how would that process work, and what can we do in that extent?
Do you understand the question? Ms. Scherer, the idea of sort of formal complaints, if that's something you need to research, let us know. But I believe the question is around what avenues do we have as a town to sort of form a complaint or any type of other procedural policy against the agency if we choose to do that.
I am not currently aware of any actual procedure for making such a complaint, but I know that many complaints have been made about ICE and their activities by others, and I'm sure that that's information that I could look up and possibly find for you.
Okay, thank you. One other thing, Mr. Marion, I would like to, I appreciate the questions that my colleagues asked tonight. I had a lot of the similar questions. I'm not going to be going over them again because I think they've been brought up here in this forum already. I'll leave it at that, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I know one question that in terms of the timeline, is it possible to have that sort of printed or sort of made public, what sort of Deputy Director Barnes laid out the time? I think that'd be helpful for everyone to sort of see that. What's the best way of sort of sharing that with the broader public?
Well, we could do it in a variety of ways. It just needs to be cleaned up and organized. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could simply, however the community would like to receive it. I'd be open to adding a section to the website if we wanted to do that, or we could simply email out the information. However the community would like to receive that. Let me share. We recently hired our first communications manager, so I should consult with her just to see what her opinion is. But initially, those are the thoughts I would have.
Okay, that's fair. And I would ask if you could send it to council at least, at the very least, and we can figure out options for the broader public.
Certainly.
I know we are at 8:12 right now. And I appreciate the conversation. I think this was, I also, similar to my colleagues here, had a lot of questions as well that other colleagues have shared. This is something that we've always feared. It's something that would impact our community. It's not that it hasn't happened before, but there's something to be said about seeing it so close to home, literally next to our elementary school, and then actually seeing it on body cam. I don't know, I can speak for myself. Body cam footage is always a little scary for me. And there's an element of just like, I've seen far too many body cam footage. And so I appreciate the officer turning it on. Otherwise, there would be even more gaps in terms of what happened and what should have happened. I think that it's clear from the questions that were expressed that what the policy should be moving forward, it being like there are opportunities to be clear in terms of what our goal is and what our town vision and commitment and what our policies and procedures are, and would hope that as we gain we learn from this, that is clear. And I hope that there is no second incident, but in the unfortunate event that if it does happen, that we hopefully would all agree that town staff did everything that they could and sort of like portraying the events and what the policies and the the vision in terms of what our what's been expressed on the council. And so I know there's no transition easy for something like this.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one more question, not for our body. There were a number of items that we were told needed to be discussed in closed session. When do we anticipate having that closed session?
Yeah, we'll have to, our next session is on July 6th. The next legislative.
I mean, we could presumably do it this evening.
No, you can't do a closed session the same day. I know that's
true. Thank you. Thank you for that correction.
We need public notice for that.
Do we need any sort of formal request for that to be on the agenda for our next meeting? I just want to make sure that it's understood that should be on the agenda and there's not a technicality of this not being an official request.
No, I don't think so.
So it'll be on the agenda?
Yeah, we'll, whether it's the 6th or a sooner date, we'll have to.
Mr. Mayor, just to be very clear, it will be a special legislative meeting with a motion to go into the closed meeting based on what the state statutes are, required, which statutes it falls under, which sections of the statute. So that's what the agenda will look like, just making sure that that's very clear. And then it's just like the way we would handle any other. So you would come out of a closed meeting and you would go, either move into new business, unfinished business, or however you would like to handle the rest of the meeting. So just to be clear, so everyone knows what to expect.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just add, if it's legal questions, you'll have to coordinate with Victoria Shear or another attorney if the council so chooses. I'm not sure what her schedule is for July 6th.
Yes, we will. You don't need to bring out your schedule right now, but we will confirm with you, Ms. Shear, in terms of your availability for a closed session. But I think it's been heard. Yes, there are a couple questions that we would need to follow up on that we have to do in a closed session. Okay. So that was item number 1. We also have a presentation. So let me take a pause here, considering the agenda and the time. Mr. Town Manager, in terms of the second presentation around road improvement projects, that's a presentation from staff. Do we have no presentations from outside?
We have a consultant here tonight.
Okay. And that's for one of the work session items, or just for the actual road improvement?
It's for the presentation.
Okay.
Is what the consultant's here for.
Okay. Are they still present?
Yeah, I'm here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Did you want me to go ahead and start now, or?
Yeah, if you or is staff doing a presentation, or?
I think Miss Ivy was going to start off. If you're ready, Miss Ivy.
Yes, I am. Get my camera to stay on. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the community. Staff entered into a 2-year agreement with Civil Solutions to conduct a comprehensive town-wide assessment of roadway, sidewalk, and traffic sign conditions. The field assessment was completed in April and uploaded onto the company's platform in early May. The tree survey, as a matter of fact, was also loaded onto the platform. The tree survey that was done in 2023 That's going to be extremely helpful to us to be able to pull up certain species one at a time and do an assessment of their distribution. Additional assessment data is also available for purchase, including, for example, ADA ramps, curbs, drainage structures, pavement markings, street lights, and bus shelters. The company actually collects up to 30 pieces of data, but we've purchased just the data for road, sidewalks, and street signs. Due in May and June, Pannoni engineers conducted field verifications of road segments that were rated poor. The engineers also surveyed the porous asphalt parking lanes throughout Riverdale Park Station. This was necessary because parked vehicles present during the original survey limited visibility and prevented a complete assessment of the parking lane surfaces. Pannoni staff, Kim Adams, I believe she's here, Senior Engineer and Division Manager, and Anthony Patrick, Professional Engineer, who's going to do the presentation, are here this evening to present the results of the assessment. And at this time, I'll turn it over to them. Thank you.
Thank you all. Can everybody see my camera pretty well?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, Ms. Ivy did a good job of kind of explaining what the project's overall is about. The platform we're using to do the assessment is called Civil AI, spelled CYVL AI. And I think we've used the town has used a system previously to do a similar assessment. I think it was the robotics AI before. So it's the same kind of process. So I think next slide, please. And the process is very similar to the previous system. So all we're really doing is kind of using a different application to collect that data. So the goal here is, I won't spend too much time on this slide because I know it's been a long day and we want to get to the meat of the argument here. So the goal of using this technology is to collect data, spit it back out in reports that we can easily understand and follow, and then use that data to prioritize which projects are the highest priority, and figure out which ones need to have the highest safety concerns, have the highest aesthetics concerns, and kind of focus our efforts on those, and make sure we address the main concerns throughout the community as a top tier system. Next slide, please. So this is an example of the way the data is exported or viewable on the online system. The tier system is basically, you have 4 different colors. You have dark green, light green, yellow, and then orange, and it goes from good to down to poor conditions. And the color system in the middle there is kind of the way that you view the conditions as you're driving along the street. So you might be able to see a little bit of pink in the middle picture. So those are areas that are of interest that we want to focus on. That have damages or different cracks or things in the street, or maybe even potholes. So we surveyed the streets, the roadways in particular. We surveyed the sidewalks, and we surveyed the street signs as well, as you can see in the bottom right corner. In the top right corner, you'll see the red, which is the sidewalk areas that have the highest concern of damages and things like that. And this is the entire town of Riverdale area that was surveyed. Next slide, please. And so these are previous projects that were done in the town, mostly by Pannoni. And just want to give you some examples of kind of how we've done work in the past, and continue to level of service in the future for this new contract, new fiscal year, 2027. We had 3 different contracts, and we have done 33 different sites, and these are just some of the sites that we haven't done. Those driving around or may have noticed the work done in these areas. Hopefully that meets your expectations, so we can continue doing that kind of work for this new project. Next slide, please. So there are 8 different locations in particular for roadway improvements. So the first one I'll kind of go in more heavy, and then it kind of lighten up for the other ones as you get used to the information presentation. So this is at Queensbury Road to Wells Run. And so basically there is a number of, in the middle picture, you see like a pothole or what's called a depression. And so we have a number of situations where throughout this particular area, you have unraveling where the roadway is kind of breaking up, the asphalt's kind of breaking up. You have areas where you have you have utility patching that's required. You see like a manhole or a utility valve that is breaking up the area around it. It's breaking up because of that valve is kind of the water freeze situation in the wintertime. You have also cracks that appear in the roadway, different types of cracks all throughout the roadway. And then you have bumps and sags, and then sometimes you need crack sealant to seal those cracks up. So that's what the right side is trying to convey. And the left side, you'll see the coloring system where you see the dark green, the light green, the yellow, and some of the orange. So that's one of the places where we're trying to focus on those yellow and the orange or / red locations is one of the more hot items that we need to kind of focus on. And so the system collects all that data, and we process it and try to put together a price for how much it's going to take to revise or repair those particular sections. So as you can see, for this particular area, we want—
I'm sorry, Anthony. This is actually Maryland Avenue between Queensbury and Wells Run.
Apologies, yes, I think I left that part of the title. Yes, Maryland Avenue. So we want to basically resurface the entire street. So what happens when you mill and resurface, you basically take a 2-inch layer off the top of the asphalt and you put 2 inches back. So typically when somebody, like for instance, when I guess Pepco or somebody's doing trenching work, they'll dig a trench and then they'll repave the top of it with 2 inches layer of asphalt. We may have seen that many times. So that's kind of what we're doing here, is you take a bit off top and replace it so it looks nice and smooth, and keep the aesthetics of the neighborhood up as well. So that typically we would try to do the entire street. And I think that's pretty consistent for all 8 locations. And the where is the yellow and orange areas in your top left corner of your screen. And this is particularly, I don't want to say a long run, but we want to make sure that we're capturing the areas that are definitely in yellow and orange for sure. So this particular project is estimated about $350,000. This is just an estimated cost. This is not the total cost. It's not the engineer cost. Is just an estimate based on the information we have collected. So it can fluctuate just a little bit here and there, but we'll discuss future steps in the next couple of slides. This is just the first location. So the next couple of locations, I'll kind of zoom through these a little bit faster, but the second one is the porous asphalt location that was mentioned earlier. We don't necessarily know what type of asphalt column or what type of material the porous asphalt was built on, so we have to research that part. But you'll see the materials in the bottom right corner that we're assuming right now that the porous asphalt is compiled of. So we based a price off of what we believe that column is supposed to contain. And you'll see the middle of it, you'll see the areas, you can barely really see them, but there's a couple areas in yellow there and a couple areas in orange that definitely need to be modified. So we're working on how to basically replacing that whole strip down the parking lanes, so that it has nice smooth consistency throughout. And this is basically a stormwater management facility, so we don't want that to fail in any way. So we're going to replace the whole stretch, and to make sure that it all functions as one big facility. So that's kind of how this particular site is going to work in the Riverdale Parks porous asphalt lane stations area. I think that was it for this slide. We can go to the next one. It's location 3. This location is Madison and Hill resurfacing around Signet Lane. This particular area, the stretch between that one, I think the street, I can't remember what street that was on the left, but east of Supra Place, that whole section of Signet Lane is pretty much yellow. So definitely we want to get that one yellow area for sure accounted for. And that entire street needs to be resurfaced and milled and resurfaced. And the where is obviously the section in yellow. And you can see an example of some of the cracks that occur in the street right there. Sometimes the crack is indication of the sub-base material kind of falling apart. And sometimes you have to do a really deep repaving of the sub-base, or repair of the sub-base, excuse me, and then resurface on top of that. So the examples on the right side, you'll see like it has long traverse cracking, alligator cracking, different types, bumps and sags, and edge cracking. And then sometimes they need crack sealant. So those are kind of the issues that's going on with this particular site. And you'll see the price, the estimated cost, excuse me, in the bottom left. And the next few I think are very similar. Location 3 should be very similar, which is Supra Plaza. Same kind of situation. You'll see a little bit of the sealant cracking that's been there like that's the example of the repairs that were done in the past. And so it's getting some of those cracks are kind of unraveling themselves. And so this system also allows us to see how frequently the cracks are appearing every time the system is repaired. So that's another dynamic the system allows you to do. And you'll see the estimated cost in the bottom left. And then we have Site 5, which is Silk Tree Drive in the same kind of area. That whole area, if you can see that, is in yellow. So that would be a very, the whole Silk Tree Drive needs to get replaced in terms of the full depth, what they call full depth pavement. So the whole area is kind of failing underneath. And so that's an area that's going to be a very hot topic because that's a whole, several blocks there. Moving forward, location 6. Okay, this is Oliver Street at Baltimore, between Baltimore Avenue to 46th Avenue. Same situation. This particular section is in orange, which means it's poor condition. And so it has a number of potholes, as you see on the right side, depressions raveling. So the potholes are the biggest concern. I'm sure nobody wants to drive over potholes regularly. So that's one of the reasons why this particular area is in orange, because that's one of the bigger concerns, at least for me, is a bigger concern. So that particular stretch needs to get replaced. I think you can barely see it, but in the left picture, you'll see the shade of the tree kind of makes it hard to see, but you'll see some cracking and some potholes and depressions that kind of popped up based on a freeze-thaw cycle that occurs in the wintertime. So what happens, obviously, water expands in the winter. And so the water will pile up in there and the ice freezes and expands and it blows those cracks open. So that's kind of how that gets to that bad condition. So that's an example of that happening. Next slide, number 7, or location 7. This is another example in the middle of the street. You may notice that the center of it's kind of falling apart there, as indicated by the cracks. And so that's an example of the sub-base kind of failing underneath. And so that's one of the reasons why this particular stretch between between Queensbury, 48th, between Queensbury and Riverdale needs to get replaced. And you'll see that in orange, that's a really big sign that the conditions are very poor in that area. So that's why that one particular block needs to get full depth treatment, the entire block. And the last site, location 8, you'll see that Lafayette Avenue, the whole side of Lafayette Avenue on the left is in orange or yellow. So that whole stretch needs to get replaced in terms of the conditions in that roadway. So that's one of the shorter blocks that we have to replace, but that is a high concern as well. So those are basically the conditions of the roadways. And I'll get into, so this is the estimate total for like all the projects combined. And we can get into back in this a little bit later, but you see it's about $1,300,000 or so. We can get back with questions in that in a minute, and then I'll get to my last 2 slides here, kind of move things along. The sidewalks we analyzed, we have about 20.
I'm sorry, Anthony, you want to progress to the next slide, Ryan?
Oh, yes, sorry.
This is the summary that you were referring to.
Sorry. Yes, this is the summary. As you see the numbers down in the bottom, right? That's the summary for now. That, like I said, that's just an estimated total cost. It can fluctuate depending on how the town wants various sections prioritized. That's the discussion part that will follow in the next couple of weeks. Now you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, these are the sidewalks that were analyzed. There are 26 concrete pavement sidewalks in poor condition that were analyzed. That's about a little less than 8,900 feet, about 1.6 miles of sidewalk. And so we have prioritized based on the data shown that there were 6 different intersections that needed to be on the top of the list. And you got 4 additional ones that the report sped out as well. Those are shown on the right side of your screen from 1 to 6. And then 7 to 10 were the second set of 4 that the report kind of indicated. For example, Taylor Road at I cannot pronounce it, Powhatan Street. That is the longest one that has the highest target rate. So that's the one that the system recommends we focus on first. Again, we can talk to the town to figure out if the town's interested in pursuing that goal. That's the following steps. And I will finish off with 2 more slides actually. Next slide is the traffic signs. that were analyzed. So there's a number, obviously there's about a little less than 2,000 traffic signs throughout the community. The majority of them are in satisfactory condition or better. 171 signs were indicated through the system as being in fair condition, where that means the sign was either fading, had minor damages or bends, or it wasn't as reflective to the driver as possible. That reflectivity is really crucial because you want to make sure that the driver can see the sign and that the pedestrian can see the sign, and that sign is how the two interact properly. So that reflectivity is really important. So if that's in fair condition, that might be grounds to get it replaced in the future pretty soon. And then 45 particular signs were rated as poor, being significant fading. The signs were peeling or cracking or basically unreadable by either the driver or the pedestrian, bent, warped, or corroded, or missing portions of the sign, or sometimes the sign may be bent, or the pole itself may be bent or damaged. Those are all things that are taken into consideration when you're dealing with traffic signs. And last slide, we can open up for questions. So I think the top part's missing, but that's okay. The last step is to kind of talk about to discuss with the town the next steps of kind of figure out how to prioritize the data that was collected and decide which intersections and which projects we want to tackle first, and how to develop the funds in order to take care of those problems, and make sure the community knows as well how we're addressing these concerns, and make sure that they're okay with what's being done or what's being proposed, and give an opportunity to get feedback from the town residents as well. So that, in a sense, wraps up everything related to the Civil AI presentation. I guess I want to open up for questions.
Thank you. We couldn't handle any more slides with more big dollar amounts. If you showed another one that was like 300,000, goodness gracious. So I appreciate the presentation. It's very thorough. I've got a couple questions, but Councilmember Lingo, I know you've got a question. You can start.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have questions 3, no more, no less. 3 are the number of questions I have. Sir, relating to the signage inventory that you discussed.
Sure.
Is there an ability for you to do an inventory comparison as to what's out on the streets and what is supposed to be out on the streets, i.e. by legislation that's been passed by the town in previous years for areas to be designated with signage where essentially if those numbers are matching all up?
Unfortunately, this system doesn't allow for that kind of analysis without a deeper feature, because what the Civil AI does, it just collects data that's existing, that's already out there. Okay. So it would take some in-depth discovering to trying to see what should be out there. The system got built for that. Okay.
Thank you. My next question is regarding in terms of this data that you're collecting about the condition of the roads and all. Essentially what you're seeing in terms of like conditions of roads and this data that you're collecting versus, you talk about resurfacing and reconstruction. And is the data that you're collecting being able to help you differentiate between what roads may need resurfacing versus what may just need a full-on reconstruction?
Yes. So let's go back to.
I mean, really, what brought this question up for me was your slide where you had location 1.
Okay, you can go back to.
Which was essentially Maryland Avenue.
Yes.
I mean, that's really what kind of brought up for me. I know there's some other streets in town that we could have a similar discussion about, but does this data allow you to make that determination?
Yeah. So, for example, some of the items on what they call distresses on the right, the potholes, for example, are indication of failure of the subbase that needs but when the sub base fails, basically that means reconstruction, what they call full depth reconstruction.
Okay.
So when you see something like cracking, like different types of cracking might indicate that maybe that just the top surface is failing, but the sub base necessarily isn't. But different types of those distresses indicate different levels of replacement, if you will, or repair.
Okay. And my last question, because as you had one point, or I've heard on a number of times in the presentation, you made the comment, essentially information we collected. And I go back to that old saying that was said many years ago, during a summit meeting, between the United States and then at that time, the Soviet Union, which still holds true today, essentially. Doverai ni proverai, which is Russian for trust, but verify. And how are you able to verify the data that this system is collecting in regards to these projects? Because you talk about this data is collecting, you're basing estimates on this data.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you able to, engage in doverai ni proverai? Please explain that to me, пожалуйста.
I love the accent, mind you. So once the data was collected, we actually went out and did field verifications a number of times. So we came out to the field to pick a number of intersections. Let's say we walked the site for Maryland Avenue, and we compared the data visually to what the data was showing in the online app. So that's a way of analyzing to make sure that the data was accurate, one, and two, to make sure it's picking up the correct locations and stuff. So yes, the field verification is, I think, the answer to your question. We verified it in the field to make sure that it's spitting out accuracy.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, the reason I bring this up is because when we get to this later point on your last slide, if you don't mind going to that.
The last location.
Next following steps.
Okay, yeah, last slide.
It's, as the data that essentially you're collecting and going through, and I'm glad to see that you have a process for verifying this data. That's going to be very important to us in terms of trying to determine how we're going to prioritize, especially when you're trying to come up with, as accurate as possible cost estimates.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councilmember. Can I ask a question to maybe Ivy or staff about all of these projects? Are their estimates, or they're not currently sort of pre-planned projects? So there's nothing that's already budgeted for some of this work, or are some things already sort of included in terms of what has sort of already been budgeted for future years?
So we have a budget in the CIP for streets and sidewalks, and those funds will cover as many of these areas as they will cover. The estimates will be fine-tuned as the engineer completes the engineering designs for each of these locations. And they will update the estimate, and we'll have to determine, based on the funds available, how many of those projects can actually proceed in FY27.
Got it. So there are funds available, projects haven't been selected, and so the work is based off this information, which projects make the most sense to try to prioritize
at this time. So we're planning to come back before the council on July 6th with the list of proposed projects and their estimated costs, and a request to sign a task order contract with Pannoni to proceed with the designs.
Thank you. Councilmember Worsnop.
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. 3 quick questions.
Sure.
First, just confirming that the presentation will be made available to council.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll just need to take some time to look at it. My second question on the sidewalks, just confirming that not included there are sidewalk areas that need like shaving down, right, rather than full replacement. Is that correct?
Not quite sure what you mean by shaving down.
Like
So
I've
where
been
the
told, yeah.
disjointed, with the disjointed, I'm not sure if the assessment could pick up that detail. But where it was in poor condition, we'll go out and do more field investigations or verifications for the sidewalks. So
Okay,
far, we've just
okay.
done those for the roads.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Because I know
Right.
in the Madison Hill community, the sidewalks have also been of particular concern, but maybe some of the spots did not reach like a full replacement level, but they still needed some work done.
Right. The standard we use is if they're uneven just up to an inch and no more,
Yeah,
we would shave them
right.
down. Otherwise, the
Okay,
panels would have to be replaced. And it's usually not just one panel, but multiple panels.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, in terms of verifying the information, so you were saying you'll go out and look at the spots that are recommended. Will you also go look at spots that are not recommended based on this program to make sure that it was making that non-recommendation?
You're
Yeah, so
referring
Potentially
to roads. I'm sorry, you're referring to roads,
to
Councilmember, or and
mostly roads, but I guess either one it would apply to.
so Pannoni has gone out already and did field investigations for roads rated poor. We'd like
Right.
to include roads that were rated fair depending
Okay.
on their
Okay.
location, roads near schools, roads that are heavily traveled.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I guess were
Thank
you
you.
asking were
Yeah.
you asking whether we wanted to look at roads that were in fair condition to verify the accuracy? Is that what your question was?
Yeah, to make sure they weren't actually in worse condition, I
Right,
guess.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
do a sampling of those
Yeah. Okay.
roadways, sort of
Mhm.
based on, again, their use, proximity to multifamily, and those types
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
considerations,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and
Okay.
not just the absolute worst first.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions or comments from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember, come on.
Yeah, I'm going directly to Director Lewis. Director Lewis, I want you to do us a favor. All these projects you guys have analyzed. I would like you, because I have 6 wards plus the mayor, all the projects where they are located should be copied on paper. Each council member have to have one paper. Maybe we'll visit the work site. Like my own ward, if anyone is involved in my own ward, I'll go there and visit and see them how they are doing the job. Then the mayor can have his own copy. But I would like you to do that for us. It's a 6 ward. Wherever
Okay.
the project is, copy this project, send it to each of, in the paper, each of the council members, so that when the work started, we can start visiting the areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm.
Yeah, I would say that it's up to the council to decide which areas we want to prioritize, and obviously it'll be public knowledge in terms of where we land. I thought where you were going, which is something that I would want to say is we should, I think, be intentional in terms of how do we balance the roads that are in most need, as well as making sure that it's not concentrated in one particular area. And so I know there are historical parts of the town that have received less investment, and so like I know I used to be the council member for Ward 4. I know Madison Hill, if folks were here, I don't know if anyone's in the crowd here, have felt like, hey, Silk Tree Road hasn't had a lot of love in a long time. And so I think we should think about how do we balance, I think what was mentioned, not just the poorest roads, but also, routes for school, major activity centers, population centers. Also, I think the timing of when it's done. I don't know if we'll be able to get anything done by the summertime, but if at all possible, it might make sense that, hey, while school is out, maybe we try to prioritize a particular location if that's at all possible. So those are all things I think we should be mindful of and consider. So hopefully as well, Director Lewis, as you think of like that initial list of potential projects, just keep in mind some of that as well, that you want to have some type of diversity in terms of the locations within the town, as much as possible.
Absolutely, and thank you for those comments. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other comments from council? I appreciate the presentation, and it's a sober reminder that infrastructure is expensive, and so it's helpful to at least know that was it 1.2, almost 1.3 million dollars initial estimate for some of this stuff, and so thank you for the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yep.
Okay. Next up, we have public comments. If folks are online and want to ask a public comment, ask that you raise your hand and leave it raised, and I'll try to respond to you in the order in which you come up. Anyone in the room, feel free to come up front and unmute yourself and at least just give a quick introduction in terms of who you are, and we'll go from there. We have a comment in the room.
Good evening, everyone, council, town staff, and fellow neighbors. My name is Heather Kronk. I live on 46th Avenue. I want to thank staff for generating the timeline of events from earlier tonight that we walked through, and also thank the council and the mayor for putting this the conversation about our experience with ICE a couple of weeks ago on the agenda. I know that's not normal for a work session, and appreciate the council moving quickly on that. For over a year, community members have been coming to the council meetings to ask the council to clarify the town's position toward federal civil immigration enforcement. For over a year, we've been telling you that ICE is active in our community, ICE is abducting members of this community and many others, and that we need the town to do everything possible to protect our neighbors. And for over a year, this council has done very little to meet that moment. I also want to add that this incident about a week and a half ago is illustrative of why we've been asking for the town to clarify policy. And it's critical to note that the responding officer confirmed ICE's identity to staff at 7:47, but ICE did not leave the elementary school or the lot across from the elementary school until 7:58. There's still substantial discrepancy on the accounts of what happened, because information was only taken from town staff on site and text messages, not from community members who were on the scene. The incident on June 11th that happened just a few yards from here is an example of why we need explicit, durable legislation to mandate town policies. Community members have previously given the council a list of actions that we needed you to take. In addition to those actions, there are 6 actions we need the council to take in the next legislative meeting on July 6th, since there is not another council meeting after that until August 31st. And I'll just run through my 6 suggestions, our 6 suggestions. 1, pass legislation to clarify that official town policy is that no town staff, including police, will assist, cooperate with, enable, or participate in ICE activities in any way. 2, pass legislation that all town staff, including the police who interact with ICE within town limits, request to view a valid signed federal judicial warrant. If a valid warrant is not presented, town staff must request that ICE leave town limits immediately. If a valid warrant is presented, document the names and government department affiliations of all present. In the case of Riverdale Police Department, ensure that body camera is on during the entirety of the interaction. 3, pass legislation stating that town-owned property may not be used to assist in the enforcement of civil federal immigration as a staging area, processing area, or operations base. Mark all town-owned property with no trespassing signs that explicitly state in English and Spanish the town-owned property may not be used for federal civil immigration enforcement. 4, investigate whether town policy and or leadership directives were violated during the interaction on June 11th. If it was, issue a reprimand to the officer that is documented in his personnel file. If it was not, issue a public statement about new policies and procedures designed to prevent this kind of interaction in the future, including a letter to all residents in English and Spanish that lays out all existing and new town policies and commitments. 5, designate a town staff member to be a liaison to community groups engaged in ICE Watch activities, which I think will cut down on some of the confusion with text messages. And 6, establish the previously promised fund to financially support families of residents who are detained and or deported by ICE, set at a minimum of $50,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it possible to get a copy of that or email it to me? Thank you. Any other public comments? I just want you to mute. There you go.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm a Ward 3 member, and thank you to the mayor, council, and town staff for a chance to speak tonight. We know that our neighbors are living in fear of this surge in immigration action, and we know that these are not normal civil detentions. People are being separated from their families and placed into inhumane conditions that violate their constitutional rights and are intentionally efforts to intimidate and break them into signing agreements to be deported. And this has been having a obviously huge and horrific impact on families in our neighborhood. I wanted to state that I support the suggestions that my neighbor recommended just a moment ago, and also provide some contextual numbers of the immigration surge we're seeing in our county and our town specifically. Deportationdataproject.org details in Prince George's County in June 2025, 82 detentions. In July 2025, 44 detentions. And that at the time was considered a surge. In December 2025, we saw 178 detentions. In January 2026, 141. And February 2026, 92. These are the ones that are known to deportationdataproject.org. In terms of neighbors who have been volunteering to document what's been happening in our own town, just within municipal property, not talking about the greater Riverdale area or our neighbors, Bladensburg, Hyattsville, just within our municipality, and just the ones that we know about and that we were able to verify. We know of 3 detentions in Ward 2. On East-West Highway and Beale, on East-West Highway and Taylor, on Queensbury Road and Taylor. We know of course, the staging that took place on the 11th next to our elementary school in the lot that we spoke of earlier. We know of 1 detention in Ward 4 along Kenilworth Avenue and Good Luck Road. And we know that person is in fact a Ward 4 resident. We know of 2 detentions in Ward 6 along Kenilworth Avenue and Jefferson, and Kenilworth Avenue and Riverdale Road. And we also had a sighting recently at the Jefferson Hall Apartments. I don't know if someone was detained there, but we have evidence that they were present in that area. And we've also seen a traffic stop in Ward 6 where someone was stopped for some reason and let go because they were not eligible for detention for whatever reason. So for some reason, people are also just being stopped. We likely know it's because of their identity. This is happening on a weekly basis around us. And these are just the ones that we've confirmed. And so I just want to urge the council, we need clarity to support what our staff, our town staff and police should be doing so that they also have clarity and can have authority to ask for that warrant, ask for them to leave town property. And we also need those policies and legislation to ensure our residents and our neighbors that we're doing everything we can to try and prevent our families from being separated and protecting one another. So I urge you to seriously consider the recommendations that were presented, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other? Here we go. Make sure you unmute the mic. No, press the button.
Thank you.
There you go.
I'm Catherine Bergman. I've lived in Riverdale Park for 33 years. We raised our kids here. We're in Ward 1 on 43rd Street. And I want to support the last two speakers. And this is very personal for me. My parents were immigrants. They were German Jews who escaped from Nazi Germany. They got out in time. A lot of my relatives didn't. And they were taken from their homes by armed thugs, sent to concentration camps, some in another country. The Nazis came for immigrants first. And I just want to support what the town council has done so far to protect the immigrant community. What she just said, we have armed thugs in our neighborhoods kidnapping people, just like what happened to my relatives. So, and in Maryland, I thought we had legislation that there were protected areas like schools. So I think that is our responsibility. That's within the law where ICE is not permitted to operate. The Community Trust Act that was just passed by the Maryland State Legislature keeps local law enforcement. It forbids them from helping ICE. In answer to one of the council members who thought, why are we even discussing this? There is a line now that's been drawn by the state legislature between our local law enforcement and ICE. And I'm hoping our local police will continue to protect immigrants. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I will.
Oh, no, it was on. Press it one more time. The green is on. There you go.
Oh, duh. Okay. Hi, I'm Sandy from District 1, and I am here to support all the public comments and first of all, or second of all, I guess now, to thank all the public servants and everything that everybody has done. I think, this is a time when we all have to stand strong for what we know is ethical and important. And we have to push the edge as much as we can in order to protect our neighbors and to stand up for our community. I have lived in this community for 38 years. I raised my child here. I love my neighbors and my town. And I want to stay proud of this community and have our government stand up to all the injustices and the inhumanity that is going on now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the discussion and thank you for running it so well, Mr. Mayor. My name's Abby. I live in Ward 1 and I want to support the 6 recommendations that Heather put forward. And I just want to emphasize that, there's some questions about what the town can or can't do. But I would just encourage you to really dig into the power that you have, because it seems apparent that you have a lot more power than you think you have. And with regard to Heather's recommendations, there's precedent for most of all of these things happening in other locations. So it shouldn't be a barrier, thinking that this isn't something that people have done before, because it absolutely is.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comments? Just make sure you press the button.
Great.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Clark. I'm a Ward 3 resident, live on Madison Street. I just don't need to say a lot. I just want to put my voice behind the recommendations that were made by my neighbors. And I heard town staff say very clearly that they want to send a positive message to the immigrant community in Riverdale Park and in Riverdale. And I want them to push themselves to think about some real tactile, actual ways that what it would look like to support that community, and really start with those suggestions and see how that goes, so that there's a real clear message heard around the values of this community, what a clear policy looks like, and how we will respond to ICE activity. And if we can throw some resources behind it, that would be even more appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Alan Thompson, Sheridan Street, Ward 2. I'm not going to speak for or against the exact proposals that previous residents have said during these comments. I'm generally in support of the ideas they have. The specifics I'm not so sure of at this time. I did want to address an issue that was brought up by the council member from the 6th Ward during the prior discussion, and a few other legal issues that I think the town council should consider carefully in establishing policy. And as the council member from the 1st Ward pointed out, these ICE officers were on town property, and they were not in hot pursuit of a criminal. They were performing paperwork. And so we have private property rights in this country. There is a 4th Amendment that requires a warrant for search and entry. There's a 3rd Amendment that prohibits soldiers in time of peace be quartered in any house. And all these apply. So the town is a municipal corporation. And corporations have been recognized by the Supreme Court as individuals. And that means that the town has the right to say, you may not come onto my property without a warrant. And I don't know exactly what the Attorney General has said. I'd be interested to hear what Council Shearer has to say to these, but it seems to me that the no trespassing signs allow you to say who can and can't be on that property, particularly if they're filling out paperwork. And just to give an example, if I woke up one morning and came downstairs to make some coffee and found somebody wearing a mask doing paperwork on my my dining room table, I would feel perfectly authorized to tell them to get out immediately. I'll just say that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I have one other question on an entirely separate topic, which is the civic.ai data. Director Lewis mentioned that there was tree data in there, and I wanted to see if that data was updated, and if so, if that data is available to members of the public.
Thank you. We'll follow up on that. Any other public comments? Anyone online? Okay. All right, I don't see any. Thank you for your public comments. Everyone took notes on them. I appreciate that. We've got 4 works discussion items. The first is on the PDC cooperation agreement regarding community development block grants. Is there a presentation from staff on this?
Director Chilton.
Yes, there is. Good evening, Mayor and Council and members of the public. The cooperation agreement with Prince George's County for the continuation of the Community Development Block Grant Home Investment Partnerships and Emergency Solutions Grant Program for fiscal years 2027 to 2029 is the topic of discussion tonight. So every 3 years, the town is approached by the county to continue the cooperation agreement, making the town eligible for these federal grant programs, the CDBG home investments and the emergency solutions grant programs. We've talked about the CDBG grant programs pretty often. They are in the town budget. Every year, the town receives roughly between $150,000 and $250,000 for projects. I think the most recent one is the Jefferson Street lighting project, but we've had this on sidewalk projects that we've pointed out on many walk and talk. And a lot of these grant programs come from, for those types of projects, come from CDBG funding. The town secures this CDBG funding which is federal grant dollars, through the county through this cooperation agreement. And so by entering into this cooperation agreement again, that would provide the town with the ability to apply to the county for their portion of the federal grant funds for CDBG, which is a much lower barrier to entry and much easier to access than if we were to not have this cooperation agreement with the county and were to separately try to apply through the state CDBG grant program. It would be much more difficult. So it's the town's recommendation that the mayor and council authorize the town manager to execute the cooperation agreement for the federal fiscal years 2027 through 2029 for the cooperation agreement. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Director Shelton. Any questions from council on this? Councilor Morsnot?
Thank you. Just one quick question because I'm not familiar with this program until recently. It's stated in the background that this means that the town cannot apply separately for these funds. I was just curious, like, is there any downside to that?
Not really, no. Definitely the pros of being in this cooperation agreement certainly outweigh the cons. Yeah. It's much harder for us to receive it if we apply directly to the state funds.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask Director Shelton, you're saying that the pros outweigh the cons. Well, what are the cons?
The pool of eligible applicants is much smaller if we're just applying against other Prince George's County municipalities, and the eligibility requirements are slightly different for the state CDBG program funds, and so we're already very familiar with receiving these funds and applying for these funds from the county, and so it'd be much more simple for us to continue to receive those funds and apply and succeed in receiving those funds if we continue to work with the county.
You have a follow-up question on that? I have one. And to be clear, so what are the downsides of sort of going by it or by ourselves? Is one, you mentioned that now you're competing against other municipalities. Do you anticipate, or in your opinion, do you think in terms of the amount of funds that we would get are pretty much the same either way, or is there an opportunity, is there a higher upside if we went by ourselves or not?
I don't think we would receive as much funding if we tried to go through the state CDBG program. I think we receive more going through the counties. I think that the reason that they explicitly mentioned that state CDBG funding, state CDBG program funds are ineligible to participants is so that nobody is trying to double dip and trying to receive two different of the same grant program fundings from two different sources when it's meant to be shared throughout the jurisdictions. So, but I think that yes, continuing to work with the county, we would receive more in total, grant funds in total, and it would be certainly, yes, more frequently that we would be awarded the grant funds.
Okay. Any other comments from council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may follow up.
Sure.
So if I'm understanding right, what Director Shelton is saying, that by working as a collective group through the county and then through a county application to the state, it's more likely that the amount then awarded to the county is going to be higher, and in a sense would be per group participating in this through the county. There's a greater chance of per participant realizing higher grant funding. Is that correct?
Yes, my understanding is that the number of participating municipalities' populations are used as part of a formula to calculate how much funding that the county will receive in total and how much they can disperse to participating municipalities. And that's part of why they're asking for the cooperation agreement now, is that they can demonstrate to HUD that they have this many municipalities participating, so that they should receive X number of dollars. I should know the number of CDBG funds that the county receives each year, but the amount that they receive each year increases if they have more participating municipalities participating in their cooperative agreement.
That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Just straw poll in terms of, I'm assuming, is there support for council to authorize the town manager to do this? Head shaking in the room. Any objections to this? Okay, hearing none. I think we have support, so we should put it on the legislative agenda for next meeting. Thank you, Director Shelton. Appreciate the background and the presentation.
Absolutely.
Okay, next we have the defined benefit plan proposed amendment. Director Smith, I saw you.
Director Smith.
There you go.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. This is more of a housekeeping item, and I'll try to paraphrase and not read the whole document. But this is a discussion item only. No action is requested tonight. Staff is seeking input from the Mayor and Council regarding a proposed amendment to the defined benefit plan. The amendment is intended to clarify the process and conditions for considering future retiree cost of living adjustments or COLAs. Staff will return with final amendment language after review by the retirement plan. The town currently has offered both a defined benefit plan and defined contribution plan. The defined benefit plan is currently funded at 78%, while the plan has improved more than 8% over the last 9 years. It remains below the level to generally considered healthy for adding new liability. The town currently contributes a full actuarially determined contribution recommended by the actuary company. So in essence, what we have here tonight is that the current defined benefit plan allows the administrative committee, the board of trustees, to grant an optional cost of living adjustment to retirees. However, the mayor and council have the authority to appropriate town funds. As a result, there's a disconnect between what the plan document appears to allow and the town's actual authority to fund any benefit increases. The current plan language does not establish clear financial criteria, funding thresholds, or a formal process for considering a COLA. And that's why we're recommending the changes, and we're waiting on the plan attorney to get us the final language.
Thank you, Director Smith. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it was sent to the entire council. I know I received it, but had some correspondence from a retiree beneficiary on that. I presume this is responsive to the request that was in that correspondence, or at least clarifies.
Mr. Mayor, may I? It will clarify that request. Yes, but this is something that we've been discussing on the staff level for probably about 5-6 months now.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. The question I have, Director Smith, is around, you mentioned like the disconnect. And so the amendment would be sort of changes in terms of the language in order to clarify, is it empowering the board in order to do more that it doesn't currently have right now?
Well, currently it gives them authority to dish out a COLA, which they don't have the authority to do. Only the council is authorized to allocate funds. So they have authority that means absolutely nothing. And it needs to be, the wording in the document needs to change so that the power comes back to the council to make that decision. And then we have steps in there that we would take to get to that point, like talking to the actuarial company, which we do every October. At least I do. I contact them every October and ask them, hey, do you think we should do a COLA? And everybody has said, absolutely not, even the plan attorney. So nobody's recommending a COLA at this time because the plan is, we're doing okay, but we're not out of the yellow zone, if I could put it that way. So they don't recommend that we do anything, but we wanted to make, right, first of all, they don't have the authority to to spend money, and the power lies within the council. So we want to correct that. And it never should have been written that way. It was. Now we're trying to fix it so that the power lies in the right place.
Got it. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from council? Okay. So we'll wait to hear the sort of the final language, but essentially you're saying it's updating the bylaws or whatever for the board of directors, their language, sort of remove the ability to provide COLA so that it remains in the council's discretion.
Correct. They could recommend, but they can't spend money.
Correct. Okay. Well, on board with that. Yep. All right. Thank you, Director Smith, for that. Next, we have the Town Riverdale Park flag design. Yeah, I would love to hear the official term for the study of flags again. I always forget it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council again. It's a pleasure to be here. Many months ago, then when the town adopted their seal, then I have a presentation, Mr. Shelton. There we go. Thank you. I took on voluntarily the task of coming up with some ideas for a town flag. And we could go to the next slide. There's an organization, the North American Vexillological Association. Say that 5 times fast at this time of night and you get in trouble. And this is an organization of people who have a special interest and a passion in flag design. And they have suggestions, which are shown on the slide here, for elements of flag design. And the first one is keep it simple. Flag should be so simple that a child can draw it from memory. Use meaningful symbolism. The flag's images, colors, or patterns should relate to what it symbolizes. Use 2 or 3 basic colors. I'm going to skip over the small print there. No lettering or seals. And last but not least, be distinctive or be related. And that says avoid duplicating other flags, but use similarities to show connections. And so, and just to back up a little bit, a big reason for a lot of these is that people don't think about is that flags are usually seen from very far away. And so the more detail they have, the less distinctive colors they have, it just becomes a muddy mess. And earlier this evening, I was sitting in the seats and looking at the town seal, and I said, I'm going to see what the town seal looks like if I squint my eyes too much. And it kind of looks like a piece of toast in the middle of a blue plate is what it looked like to me. Maybe there are a couple of eggs, one of them's falling off the egg. I couldn't quite come up with it. But that would be a problem with putting the town seal just on the flag as the official town flag. So go to the next slide, please. So the big question that I had for this slide was, whose flag is this? It's pretty distinctive. That's right. You got it. And it's the deep blue Ukrainian sky over a field of grain. And it's highly recognizable. A child can draw it from memory. I think we all know it very well. And so this flag absolutely meets all of the designs of the Vexillological Association. So I started with the template or the color palette of the seal. And if you could zoom out a little bit, then the palette is on the lower left hand of that slide, I believe. Yeah, there you go. So those are the colors that appear in the town seal. I thought we should try to be consistent with that. And so I started playing with some possibilities there. So the symbolism, to my mind, was the green fields for nature, which was specified in the town seal study process. blue sky and blue water. Water was also identified in the design process for the town seal as something important to the residents. And so I put them in the right orientation. I didn't put the sky under the egg fields. And there's a bunch of color combinations from the palette that to my mind seem to work. And not all of these are distinctive. I think one of them is actually the flag of a municipality somewhere in Eastern Europe. I don't remember exactly which one. I asked an AI and it gave me an answer, and it might be right. So so that was where I started. And so then I thought, well, let's pull in from these simple examples one more element from the seal, and that is the window / sun that's sort of in the center of the seal, right above the rose. I thought that that was a simple enough design that we might be able to pull it in and still make it work. And so the next slide has versions of the some versions of the previous one that that pull in that element. And I'll just note that I put 6 points in for the 6 wards. The actual seal sun has only 5, but these seemed both to me like possibilities that that could happen. So again, this was just blue skies over green fields, but pulling in that additional element from the seal. And getting a little bit more complicated on the next slide. And this was my personal favorite at the time. The sun and the points didn't quite work so well with the additional complication here, but I thought that the blue river going through the green fields with the sun and the sky was a pretty good combination. And of course, I have exceeded the 2 to 3 color recommendation here, but these are guidelines. I think it's still pretty simple, and I think that a child could still remember how to draw it. So the next slide has some variants of this. You can see how the rays do or don't work, and just for grins and to be really getting beyond the Vexillological Association's guidelines. I threw in a few bike paths around the river, and as you can see in the lower right hand, when you zoom out, when you see it the way people will be seeing it, then it pretty much fades into the background. So you still have a distinctive flag, but you have a little bit of interest if you come a little bit closer. So another option from the seal that I tried to pull in is on the next slide. I didn't feel like it worked all that well compared to the sun, but there it is. And then on the next slide, well, you can scroll up just a little bit. Again, at a distance, you can see that the butterfly sort of just fades into an odd shape that you can't figure out what it is. And I did a few more tries for butterflies, and some of them work. I think the one on the left works a little bit better, but still, I think it's a little bit problematic. So just for my last slide, to remind you of what people will be looking at, I brought most of the slides from before here, and those tiny ones are what people are going to see. Most of the time, they're seeing the flag from a distance. And I am welcome feedback and any requested combinations or changes or variants on the options I've given. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from council? My first comment before I open it up: this society they don't take like write-in requests. You can't just mail it in and say, what's your thoughts on this?
I'm willing to bet that they might be willing to provide some advice if we ask nicely and attach a check.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor Thompson, for everything, particularly your work on this. Just my 2 cents. I think dispositionally would like to see the butterfly or rose or something, that element in there, but as you have illustrated, it's not a really clean way to do it, so that may not be possible. Apart from that, I think bottom row second from the left there. One with that one, but with the 6-pointed sun, I think would be my favorite. Actually, I think with
okay,
with the river. I think actually my favorite would be that, but with the 2 different blues in this format. But I feel like the 2 different shades of blue and the number of places we would have to put it, and it's on a Welcome to Riverdale Park sign somewhere or something. It gets faded after a couple years, and it just looks the same. I just worry, and people who know about Pantones and things might tell me I'm totally wrong on that, and I'd be willing to hear it. But given that concern, I think the 6-pointed star with the 1 shade of blue would be my preference.
And you like the dark blue or the light blue?
I think the dark blue.
Okay.
But I don't have great intensity on that preference.
Okay, it's pretty easy to do, and that would eliminate my one straying from the rules.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Dr. Thompson, for putting in the work to do this. One question I have: does the Vexillological Association discuss vanishing points?
They do not. You saw their rules.
Okay. But I mean, elsewhere, I mean, I know you kind of broke them down to like really straightforward, basic, but does that topic come up?
I think
any of their?
It might be buried deep in the minutes of the Committee on Establishment of New Rules, but the rules as I presented them on that slide were copied verbatim from their website, and it is what they recommend that you follow.
Okay, and I would take it that's the same thing for horizon lines as well on there. Okay, and as to your point, I mean, they're seen from afar. They want to be readily identifiable. Being a lot of times where what flags are being used for. Terms of I think for me it's just sticking with those rules and all, probably minor adjustments to slight incorporation of vanishing points and adjustment of horizon lines. I think going with the deeper blue works better in terms of with the if you're gonna have a sun in the background. I could see upper right corner as being functional. I also see what was brought up, lower left corner as a possibility too, working in as something that would work well as well. Again, probably think about or the second from that lower left corner, tweaking like what I brought up, some vanishing points and horizon lines on it to give it a little more something that's a little more dynamic and a little less static. There's just general rules like when you're framing something and presenting an image about where you have your horizon line. If you want something or something we notice, place your horizon line a little bit above or below middle. If you want something that's just not going to be interesting, place it dead center.
Sure. So if you maybe I can meet with you offline and come up with a variant.
Sure. But I mean, it's great stuff. It's really neat, and it's again, I appreciate the effort.
So the rule of thumb I remember from photographic composition, and I think that roughly a million times more than I do about that, is that it's typically in a third. So you either, if you're focusing on the sky, you have the sky being 2/3, and
yeah, it's I think it's just really just visually how things will work.
and that would definitely provide more room to have a bigger sun or a bigger,
however you want to do it, however you want to do it, and however you want to incorporate the elements in there. butterflies are nice, but I mean, again, it's hard to lead. You know, is that a butterfly or a moth? I mean, they're just
Sure.
close, but it's neat stuff. It's neat stuff to see. Thank you.
Yeah, I like the left-hand column, second in the middle, the sun with no points. But I don't mind the points. I think probably the report, as I look at the town seal where it's the points are big, but the sun is, I guess, like the proportion of the point to the orb of the sun for like the one that's directly across in the middle all the way to the right, and the one below it seems a little like the points are very big. It almost doesn't seem like a sun. And so I'm sure there's a way to sort of adjust that.
Sure.
I like the I understand the like the sky being a different color isn't ideal, but it does look like a sky. When it's just one color, it kind of makes it seem like that it's two things. That the top part is the sun in the sky, and the bottom part is just like a, you know, green with like a slash through it. And so I like the three colors. I think for me it would be the middle, all the way to the left, in the middle, and then maybe, you know, to the earlier conversation of like where that horizon line is, but a sun with the with 6 points that maybe aren't as big might make the most sense. Councilmember Worsnop, your thoughts?
Thanks. I actually agree with what you were just saying, Mr. Mayor. I also like the light blue just because it evokes more of the town seal to me. Given that I'm just looking at the seal now and most of that background is the light blue with the like bigger sun against it, and I feel like it would be nice to have them be like somewhat similar in that way. So I also like the one in the left column in the middle, but could be convinced with points if they were slightly smaller as well. Thank you for all of your work on this.
Of course.
Really appreciate it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Council member.
I think three of us are going to pick one. You know, the second line on the left, right? Like first, second on the left.
Yep, middle one in the light blue sky.
Yes,
Yep.
I like that. You know, the sun is like when it's rising up, you know, and when it's going down again, it's the same color, it's the same way. So I think I like this one. I like it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the second on the left.
Thank you, council member.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor.
You got great taste.
I express a preference and I stand by it. But it sounds like there's a consensus for the another design, and my affinity for the one I noted is certainly not intense enough to go back and forth over several, trying to reconcile those two things. So I'm happy to defer to what seems to be the consensus.
So I heard a lot of suggestions. So is the consensus the three colors or four?
Four. It's four. Shame on us. I think there's a conversation about the horizon line to make it, whether it's, my guess would probably be you want to emphasize the sun, so maybe we lower it. It's probably my thought process from the conversation. Maybe I'll leave that to I'll leave that to folks who are in the know. And I think then there's probably a worthwhile of a sun with no points, a sun with 6 points, with predominant points, bigger points or smaller points. And I think we can wrap this baby up. No, but I think those are probably like 2 or 3 options is my guess from that. Hopefully that's helpful.
Okay. I will try. I'm not promising because I'm traveling next weekend, but I'll try to get a few new versions back. And if not, they can come back in the fall.
No worries. These things take time.
They do.
No problem. Thank you so much, Mayor Thompson. Appreciate the work on this and for pushing us to, follow best practices from the vexillological. I miss the segment. Vexillological Society. I know after the town seal was done, the prevailing interest was just mentioned. Throw that sign on everything. But I know that Hyattsville, as an example, just finished their flag. They just did a new flag. I think ours would be better. So this is timely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
I think the last thing on our agenda is sort of minutes. We have obviously minutes that have been shared for a number of meetings. Please, I ask folks to sort of respond if there are any questions or updates to that. I know we're at 9:38. Would folks want to continue with reports or would want to waive it? You want to continue report? Okay, so yeah, we'll keep our reports. Any unfinished business or new business? For the mayor's report, I'll be quick. The only thing I will mention is that I attended MML this past week in Ocean City. Was productive. But what struck me was the town of Edmonston had an election, and they have a new mayor and a brand new council. Every single person on their council is new. Their mayor, Mayor Gant had been part of the council or mayor since 1994. And so they had built-in institutional knowledge, and they kind of all walked out the door. And I know talking to her, she had to work hard to just, fill spots for people to run and trying to find a mayor to run. But it did shake me a little bit of just, we've kind of always talked about it. And I think the town has been grateful that we've had mayors who have served 8 years, 12 years, sometimes even longer than that, whether they come back on and off. There's been a level of consistency with council members who've been on the council for coming up on 20 years to my left. But we have a system in which we have 2-year terms. Every single person is on the ballot at the same time. And at any point in time, we run the risk of what Edmonston is going to go through now. I think their town manager was, thinking about, I think they definitely asked him, hey, can you stick around for another 2 years, a couple more years, just to not have everything be brand new? And I'll do whatever I can to try to mentor that mayor, which is crazy because I've only been mayor for a year. But I know what it is to be new. I can't imagine to be new with no one who I can lean on, right? And so it's something that I think during the summer recess, I'll be thinking about if just the idea we talked about extending terms of what that might look like to go to 2 to 4 years, and as well as also opportunities to stagger terms so that we don't have 7 people up on the ballot at any given point in time. There are pros and cons to it. There's also pros and cons to if we wanted to stay in a May cycle versus moving to the fall. Voter turnout will probably be higher, but I know there are issues around our elections allowed for 16 and older and non-citizen voting. We'll have to, I think there's research to be done if it's election day in the fall with the county requiring 18 and over and citizen voting, like how would that work? In a perfect world, it's something where, you're Riverdale Park, these are your machines, everything works in our favor. Or you might have to vote twice, where local elections is here, and then you go and vote county elections here, and there's a check. I mean, we'll have to figure out what that looks like, and I know that's stuff that we'll research with town staff. But I think it's, for me, I saw an alternate reality of our town stare me in the face, and it was, they were kind of like, we hopefully we can do something this year in these next 2 terms, these next 2 years in their term, because they're trying to figure out what's up and what's down. So that's the only thing that'll be on my report. I have other stuff, but I mean, and in the interest of time, I'll cut it there. But thanks all for I know this is a long conversation, long meeting today, but I appreciate everyone sticking it out. With that, I'll pass to the town manager for their report if you want to give one.
I have nothing to report, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to council reports. So we'll start Ward 1, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To your remarks there, I feel like I'm yelling. Yeah, I'm open to any reforms or changing that to facilitate the town. That's just the one thing that I would be sort of strongly opposed to would be if it is a scenario when to move to the fall, we would have to hold an election, and then somebody would have to go to another polling place to vote in the at non-municipal portions, because as I'm sure everyone can guess, if you got to go one place to vote for the president or the governor and then come here to vote for your mayor and council member, person's got a limited amount of time. We know where they're going to go, right? And we certainly want to encourage participation. Tonight, regarding the event on June 11th, we heard that when staff arrived on site at the private town-owned parking lot, they did not request ID, did not direct the individuals present to vacate the premises. It did not state our policy as a town on dealing with these matters. And we heard that it was surprising that a camera was turned on. Based on what we've heard tonight, it seems like if the same thing were to happen tomorrow or next week or another time, the only thing different might be that the camera might not come on. I want to be clear that from my perspective, what we see in that video falls well short of the expectations and values of this town, clearly. And I fear for the members of our community that are at risk as a result. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. I don't believe Councilmember Foe is still with us. So we'll go to Ward 3, Councilmember Langwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep this very brief. Really two things. One being, I had a very nice discussion with Director Maya Davis over at Riversdale. They have a community conversation coming up in mid-July. And discussions about essentially discussion relating to this being the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I hope folks come out. I hope they participate. I went to the last one. It's sparsely attended, but it was a really good conversation. So my encouragement there is for folks, do find out more about it and come on out and engage in this discussion. On another note, Mr. Mayor, one of the things I think that we as a body may want to look at is revisiting the type of bulbs we have put in at the newly installed lights down in the section of town where Lafayette comes down and meets with 47 and Nicholson Street. Well, I appreciate the fact that we do have lights down there. I think that's a good thing. It just seems the luminosity of the lights and their spread is a bit much in comparison to what you see along, say, Nicholson, along, say, Longfellow, over in that area. I understand we want to be able to light the roads and light the area, and so that to a point that it's safe. I understand that. What I'm seeing there is something that's more akin to what one would see more, to put it politely, at a security facility. Very broad, it's very bright, it's very quite illuminating to a point that, well, I'll just leave it at that and say, go down, see for yourselves, and compared to what you're seeing over along the other areas. I think, a minor adjustment might make it a little bit better for the area. The intensity and the spread on it now, it just seems a bit much. The other thing I was going to bring up is being that we do have, between now and when our next meeting is, that we will have the 4th of July, that the 4th will be falling on a Saturday. I understand folks like to go out and get fireworks and set them off. For the sake of the community, for the sake of your neighbors, and all I can ask of folks here, hopefully folks that see this, please try and be respectful of your community and the surrounding area. Think about what you're purchasing. Think about what it is that, how you're discharging. Even though it's, there are laws on the books. I would just say this: please think twice. If there's something you want to go see, fireworks you do want to see, out on display, please find a place to go to see that. There are numerous places that do hold fireworks. Discharging fireworks on your property, out in the streets, in open areas that you think it would be okay to do this, it's not. So, please think twice. With that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Worsnop, Ward 4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 things. First, just wanted to share something from a resident in the Madison Hill community that they're inquiring on the status of the sidewalk repairs that have been brought up a few times and I think are supposed to be taken care of over the summer. But they wanted to point to one particular area at the cul-de-sac of Supra Place, where one part of the sidewalk they were saying is kind of wobbling back and forth. It's because it's been pushed up extensively by a tree root. So I just wanted to flag that. Then second, I wanted to thank the members of our community that came out to the meeting tonight to express kind of the gravity of the concern and the situation regarding immigration enforcement. So thank you for taking time out of your day and for being so articulate and supportive of our community in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Ramos, Ward 5.
Good evening, everyone. I did want to second what Kat said. I am grateful for all the residents that came out and spoke today. I really appreciate the commitment. I don't have any other report to say, but I hope everyone has a great week.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Kalan, Ward 6.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One Mr. Michael D. Hammond. He called me 2 weeks ago, telling me that they are the one that want to invest the Rhode Island and that private parking. The place we visited like a month ago. I said, why are you calling me? Why is me? He said, they're going to call all the council member and the mayor. I don't know if he called you guys. I said, well, I will brought this matter before the mayor and council and town manager. So one Mr. Michael D. Hammond. So, but our discussion didn't go far. Because when I asked him why me? So I said, but I will report the matter before the council and the town manager and the deputy. So if I reach there, I think I have to stop there now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I believe we're still waiting on staff to come back and respond to the parking requests. I know the businesses were contacted, and so when we get that, we definitely will pick up that matter. It's It's 9:52. I appreciate everyone's, thoughtful conversation. I know a lot was said and articulated. I know I've got a bunch of notes. Appreciate everyone sticking around for almost 3 hours. And our next meeting will be the 6th. I've got the action item to sort of confirm with legal counsel if they're available during that time, so we can propose to have a closed session for there. And if not, then we'll find another time that works shortly that we can have that. But until then, like our council member said, please be safe, enjoy the 4th, and we'll see you soon. We'll adjourn the meeting at 9:53. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you.